How do you customize your outreach strategy as a consultant, as a B2B agency owner? There are many different constellations of the problem that you're solving and how frequently it occurs in your target audience. And you really need to think hard about in what way will you structure your outreach, be that via cold email or via LinkedIn DM, so that you have the best chance of booking a maximum amount of prospects on a sales call. My name is Michael Bohannes. I help B2B agency owners and consultants to stop being dependent on referrals and to build client acquisition systems. And this is in fact one of the conversations I recently had with a client who sells a management system that is pretty well established, but companies don't need it all the time. It's usually at a specific point in a company's growth cycle that they decide that they want this, let's call it System X. I don't want to give away too much. And he effectively needs to know, like, what is a good approach for his outreach? Because what he right now started doing was to send highly customized videos where he researches the company and he then sends a customized video and says, hey, this is what we could be doing together. And we just realized that if you put 100 decision makers of his into a room, potential people who would be in charge of saying yes to him to work with him as a consultant, if you put 100 of them in a room and you ask them, who of you is keen to implement System X in the next 3 months, let's say? Or if you already have System X implemented, how is it going for you? Do you want to fix it in any way? Now, if you were to put this question to these 100 people, how many of them would actually raise their hand that this is the case for them in the next 3 months? And we realize it's probably somewhere between 1% and 5%, probably more towards the 1%, but overall, it could be a maximum of 5%. Well, in that case, you have to think. Sending one personalized video for him takes him maybe half an hour of time, a little bit of research on the company, hitting the record button, making a few mistakes, and going back and forth on it. Maybe it's going to take you half an hour. Now, he will have to send 20 of those videos before he can realistically expect that one of them will say yes. Of course, this is the distribution of probability. It also means that he might be sending 60 such videos before he sees any result, because sometimes these things take a while to realize, and then you might be sending 60 videos and then 3 of them get a positive response, right? This is what 5% looks like. And we said, by the way, 5% is probably the best case scenario. What if it's only 2%? Then you'll need to send 50 before you can start to expect 1 positive response. Okay, so this makes it really, really tough to be sending these types of personalized messages. And given that his target audience is relatively large, as maybe 10, maybe 20,000 at a stretch, companies in the world who would be interested in working with him, well, in that case, it might make sense to take a more mass approach. If instead of crafting one email, one video for 30 minutes, what if he just did them en masse? He can have a virtual assistant pre-create those videos. The systems that we teach at the Alpha Lead Academy, which is our program for B2B consultants and agency owners to build client acquisition systems. And one of these systems is to do videos at scale. They seem a little bit personalized. They are quite unique in what they look like, but at least the consultant, the B2B agency owner, does not have to be personally involved in creating them. And that's how you can simply churn out 100 of these things every day and send 100 prospecting emails every day. That makes a lot of sense if the density of the problem, as I described, out of 100 people, how many of them would raise their hand that this is a problem for them, if that is a really low percentage. Please keep this in mind when you are crafting your outreach strategy. How many of your target audience would actually have the problem that you solve? And if you had the kind of the stamina and the discipline to stick with the personalized approach, it might actually work in your favor. Because with this mass approach that I just mentioned, you of course have a much higher chance of hitting a potential customer sooner. However, because it is a mass approach, you of course have a lower chance that they will respond. You're much more likely to respond to a personalized approach that really looked at your company rather than just pretended to do so, which the mass approach is. The mass approach only pretends that you've actually looked in depth at their company. So you have to balance these two things, whether it is personalized or mass approach, weigh these two things. In the case of my client who is selling this management systems, which by the way is very recognizable. Most people in his target audience, they know of that system. They know that they should probably implement it, but very often, again, in 95+% of cases, it's not a topic for them for the next few months. And so you just simply have to kiss a lot of frogs before a prince appears. You can say, well, I'm going to make that kiss really customized, and then I'm more likely to get a positive response. It's legit, but, and here comes the element of psychology into it. We are not robots. And I recommended my client against doing this personalized approach because he will burn out. After doing 50 personalized videos, which is 25 hours of pure work, he might say, is it really worth it doing the 51st one? What if I hit 75 and I still haven't got a positive response? What if that percentage really is only 1%? So I didn't want to put him through this. And instead, if you take a more of a mass approach and you just within a month or two, you race through all your entire audience, wouldn't be a month or two, it would be more like 5 months. You can effectively email 2,000 people in a month if you send 100 new emails a day and then you do follow-ups and all of that you can race through your entire target audience. Let's say it's 10,000 in the matter of 5 months. And that way you will know pretty soon whether your offer resonates with your target audience. Even if you don't make it personalized, at least you get it done. Why? Because you need to approach many people. Again, you have to kiss a lot of frogs before a prince appears. Also, very importantly to take into account here is your expected customer lifetime value. My client's LTV is about $50,000 on average, which makes it's a reasonably high number. So it makes it worth to put in that lot of effort into it and to go through all of those prospective clients, maybe personalizing a little bit. For example, by recording first names, that makes a lot of sense, so that the audio that you put over that video that you record is personalized. So given that high customer lifetime value, it makes sense to personalize a little bit because the effort will be worth it in the end. Now, let us look at a different business. Let's look at mine in comparison. My problem prevalence density is about, I would say, 50%, meaning if I put 100 solopreneurs, consultants, B2B agency owners in a room, probably half of them will have the problem of client acquisition not being systematized. They have only referrals. Now, granted, it's probably 99% of them who rely on referrals, or 95%, but for many of them, this works well enough. Only 50% of them perceive it as a bit of a pain point because not enough business is coming through. Also, I have, in comparison with my client, a relatively low customer lifetime value. Mine is somewhere between $7,500 and $10,000. So for me, it does not make much sense personalizing, although I could do it. Also, what speaks in favor of personalization is the fact that I'm in a very competitive field. There's a lot of people selling what I do, and so I need to stand out. The more I can stand out using personalization, the better. However, I have found that for me, what works the best is that I do bit of a mass approach. I personalize a tiny bit, but given that there's about 1 million of people in my target audience who could use my services, I can approach them en masse, and it just works quite well for me. I'm sending 100 emails a day, and I'm booking on average 1 to 2 sales calls a day with this method. Okay, so that is just in contrast with this method. And yet a completely different example is where one of our clients, he used to approach private equity companies, partners in private equity companies, and he was selling them very specific consultancy services. Like when a private equity company wants to invest in a portfolio company, they want to run due diligence. And he was running a company that runs these due diligences for them. Now there, of course, because it's a very specific service, it is not terribly competitive. It's not like there's tons of these types of companies. There are, but few of them are doing outbound. There's a limited amount of outreach that is happening and that you have to compete against. And so there's, let's say, relatively low competitiveness. His customer lifetime value is extremely high. It's like 100,000 or more. He's had clients that paid him, I think, over 200,000-300,000 at some point. And so that is really, really good. And it speaks very much in favor of a very, very personalized approach. Now, in contrast, let's look at another client of ours. He runs a consulting firm that sells to private equity companies. He sells them due diligence services for their portfolio companies. Right? And so private equity company wants to invest in a portfolio company. He comes in and does the due diligence. How often is there a problem in his target audience? Probably around like 10%, 5 to 10%, where they would not be able to do it themselves, or they are unhappy with their current provider. So let's say 5 to 10%. His customer lifetime value is very high, 100,000 and plus. And the competitiveness in this space is relatively low. There are companies like his, however, few of them are doing anything using outbound, any outreach. Okay. And so now with this combination, this speaks very much in favor of doing personalized outreach, right? First of all, these people, partners in private equity companies, are very unlikely to respond to a mass email. They want to see that you've done the work, you've done the research. So extremely personalized emails work rather well. But there are no hard and fast rules in this. I just would recommend you that you think about your approach, your outbound approach, and you think, is this sustainable? Can I continue doing this? And this is the main takeaway that I just got from the conversation with my client who's selling this management system, that in his case, it would not have been sustainable to run this highly personalized approach. Well, highly, half an hour, but quite personalized approach where he needs to be involved, not some virtual assistant, but it has to be him who does the pitch over video. And so that would just not have been sustainable for him because of the low density of the problem in his target audience. So I know there's a bit of a complicated topic. It's not completely easy to grasp, but main takeaway here is adjust your outreach approach, whether it's mass, whether it's highly personalized, to the factors in play here, which is the problem density in your target audience. If you put 100 people in the room, how many would raise their hand that they have this problem and they want to tackle it in the next 3 months? That's important, not just have the problem, but actually want to tackle it, okay? The second one is customer lifetime value. The third one is level of competitiveness and how much you need to stand out in your outreach. Those are the three main factors. Cool. If this was useful, please follow this channel, give me a like on this video, or share this podcast episode with somebody who you know, somebody who could benefit from this. And if you feel like you might need help with client acquisition, systems building, this is what we can help you with. Click the link in the description or in the show notes. It's a video funnel there, quite openly selling you something there. So if you don't want that, please don't click on the link. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you in the next video.